Hello everyone, welcome to Aesha's video channel. Today, I want to share something with you all that might be a great option for building a PVE setup for the hero Heinrich job, which got a buff in the December 2024 patch. And this is my setup gears. For weapons, I'm using 2 of +16 Blade of Empire, which provides additional pen, flee, and move speed with each refine. The total stats from both weapons reach 32% pen, 64 flee, and 34% move speed, along with a total of 50% critical damage. The best enchantments for these weapons are a Sharp Blade, which increases melee attack by up to 10%, or a Sharp, which provides up to 20% critical damage. If neither is available, the next best choice is an enchantment with physical damage increase up to 4%. At Tier 5, these weapons grant 5 momentum when using the Wind Whisper skill. When dual-wielding 2 of these weapons, you can maximize this effect, gaining up to 10 momentum per use of Wind Whisper. For cards, I'm using Minoru's Star card, Minoru's card, and Drake's Star card. I feel incredibly lucky because the Drake card was my first Nolan pull in this ROM journey. Unfortunately, I don't have enough Minoru's resources to craft another Minoru's Star card, and my Zenny is still far from enough to buy one from the exchange. And here are some other cards that could be good options for you. And the best low-effort card, you can use Minoru's card, so you can easy to get 100% damage to large monsters from that. For the armor, I'm using Soul Cage +15, which gives a total of 27% physical attack and 20% damage to large monsters. You could also use other armors like Blessing Liberation, which provides 45% critical damage and 20% damage to large monsters. Dragon Blood, which gives 18% physical damage and 20% damage to large monster. Or Other Shore Patrol, which boosts 35% elemental damage. In my opinion, Blessing Liberation is the best choice for armor. The best armor enchantment is a Sharp, which gives up to 20% critical damage. If that's difficult to get, you can also go for physical damage increase up to 4%. Additionally, you'll get extra physical damage at Tier 5. For cards, I'm using the Poitata Star card, which boosts 25% damage to demi-human monsters. In my opinion, this is the best card for the armor. However, you can use other cards as alternatives. And here are some other cards that could be good options for you. For the garment, I'm using +15 Imperial Knight's Cape, which is the best garment option, offering a total of 25% critical damage, 12% auto attack damage, and an additional 2% auto attack damage at Tier 5. You can also consider other garments like Leader's Pauldron, which provides 14% skill damage at Tier 5, or a War Manto, which offers 20% auto attack damage at Tier 5. For garment enchantments, look for critical damage up to 10% or physical damage increase up to 4%. If these are difficult to obtain, you can go for VIT, especially if you're using the White Star Knight card, which increases critical damage by 1% for every 15 VIT. As for the card, I'm using Zenobia card, which gives 6% skill damage and every 12 points of Street, DEX and INT will increases additional skill damage by 0-1% respectively. However, there are other card options you can choose from, such as the following. For the shoes, I'm using +15 Lune Memorial, which provides a total of 12% physical attack, 6% penetration, and an additional 2% pen at Tier 5, giving a total of 8% penetration. You can also consider other shoes like Feather of Flight, which offers 15% critical damage and 8% pen at tier 5, or Dominator War Boots, which provide 12% melee physical damage and 2% pen at tier 5. For shoe enchantments, you can aim for critical damage up to 10% or physical damage increase up to 4%. If these are difficult to obtain, you can go for VIT, especially if you're using the White Star Knight card, which increases critical damage by 1% for every 15 VIT. As for the card, I'm using the Moonlight Flower Star card, which grants 30% move speed and immunity to slow effects. I feel super lucky to have gotten the Moonlight Flower card from the Nolan King pouring. However, you can also consider other card options, such as For accessories, I'm using 2 of plus 15 Steel Ambition, with each providing a total of 12% melee attack and 4.5% physical damage. You can also consider other accessories like Diamond Earring, grants 4.5% penetration. Zeni of the Gods, provides 4.5% auto attack damage. Silver Stigmata, boosts 15% attack speed and 4.5% penetration. Heart of Molten Fire and Emerald Button, enhance fire and water element damage by 12%. For accessory enchantments, look for a Sharp Blade, which grants up to 10% melee attack, or aim for physical damage increase up to 4% or critical damage up to 10%. As for cards, I'm using Moonlight Tendrillion Star card, which provides 2% skill damage. White Star Knight card, which grants 5% move speed, 10% critical damage, and an additional 1% critical damage for every 15 VIT. However, you can also consider other card options, such as Here is my headgear setup. Headwear. I'm using Homestead of Snowy Owl, which increases wind, earth, water, and fire attack by 10% and boosts damage by 10% when attacking targets with inferior elements. You can also consider other headwear options, such as card. I'm using the Walter card, which increases 5% skill damage and 5% final damage when the target's HP is above 50%. Here are some other card options you can use. Enchant. Look for Zeal, which grants up to 10% auto attack or critical damage up to 10%. Face Gear. I'm using Cute Blower, which provides 3% move speed, 10% damage to monsters, including MVP and Mini, and an additional 5% damage to MVP and Mini when refined to +6. You can also consider other face gear options, such as Enchant. Look for physical damage increase up to 4% or critical damage up to 10%. Mouth Gear. I'm using Ocean's Attachment, which offers 5% move speed, 8% damage to monsters, including MVP and Mini, and an additional 5% damage to MVP and Mini when refined to +6. You can also consider other mouth gear options, such as Enchant. Look for Zeal, which grants up to 10% auto attack or critical damage up to 10%. Back Gear. I'm using Wrathgracy, Fallen Feather, which provides 5% pen, 5% move speed and skills have a 10% chance to trigger Lex Aeterna. You can also consider other back gear options, such as Enchant. Look for Sharp, which grants up to 20% critical damage. Tail. I'm using It's Too Late, which gives 5% move speed. After reaching 100% move speed, every additional 5% move speed grants 1% skill damage, up to a maximum of 10% skill damage. You can also consider other tail options, such as enchant. Look for a sharp blade, which grants up to 10% melee ATK or up to 4% physical damage. And here is my shadow equip. Offhand, I'm using plus 15 Dragonslayer Martial Merits Tier 5 with an enchant of armor breaking, pen, or alternatively physical damage increase. Armor. I'm using plus 15 The Chosen's Armor Tier 5. For enchantments, like your main equipment, aim for sharp, critical damage, or physical damage increase. However, in my opinion, the best armor for shadow equipment is Ninja Clothes, Cold Night Song, because it provides critical damage, melee damage, damage to large monsters, and physical damage increase. Additionally, it pairs well with the Accessory, Hermit's Bundle, which gives you an extra 10% critical damage. Garment. I'm using plus 15 Cloud Undershirt, Tier 5. For enchantments, like the main equipment, aim for critical damage up to 10% or physical damage increase up to 4%. Shoes. I'm using plus 15 Little Fairies Slippers, Tier 5. Similar to other equipment, aim for enchantments like critical damage up to 10% or physical damage increase up to 4%. Accessories. I'm using 2 of plus 15 Hermit's Bundle. For enchantments, aim for Sharp Blade, which grants up to 10% melee attack, or physical damage increase up to 4%, or critical damage up to 10%. For the attack Oracle Mirror, I'm using Combustible Knife, currently at progress 14/15. Alternatively, you can use plus 15 Bill Geesarm to get 30% damage to MVP and Mini. For the defense Oracle Mirror, I'm using Meteorite Armor. As for the relic, I'm using Lord of Vane to gain pen and elemental counter coefficient plus 0.15 to all attributes. Regarding the materials, I was purely lucky to get them from the boxes available in Feast Honoraria. For progress up to 80%, I received BCC from a colleague as a gesture of goodwill. And yes, I reached 100% without spending any real money. Here is my memory update. I'm using 3 of Sakre's legendary memory. For the memory stats, you can aim for when target damage is completely ignored, final damage increases by 3%. Additional extra final damage from critical hits. When attack speed reaches 480, gain pen 3%. Or damage to large monsters plus 4%. Here is my current stat. Here is my runes setup. Attack Minor Runes. Berserk Attack Rune increases critical damage. Destruction Attack Rune increases damage output. Element Attack Rune boosts elemental damage. Penetration Attack Rune enhances PEN. Support Minor Runes. I'm using STR Buff Rune, AGI Buff Rune, INT Buff Rune, VIT buff rune, and DX buff rune. And for defense minor rune. I'm using element damage reduce rune to reduce his incoming elemental damage. Here is my S rune setup. For Rune of Pure Blood Rune, this is the core rune for PvE as it provides crit damage and all type damage, each up to 30% when Unyielding skill is active. For my Arcane Rune setup. White Blade Rune increases damage by 24% if there is only one target within a 5-meter radius. War Preparedness Rune converts incoming damage into a shield. The rest of the runes depend on your needs and preferences. Here is my handbook and deposit. And now, it's time for dungeon simulation.
生堂々としているか。
I believe Heinrich can be considered high tier for PVE jobs after the December 2024 patch update. Disclaimer, this build isn't the best out there, but it can serve as a reference or inspiration for you to progress further. Don't forget to like and comment on this video if you enjoyed it, and support this channel by hitting the subscribe button. See you in the next video.